I chose Arnold Schwarzenegger for my person for the creativity slideshow. And my thesis is that Arnold Schwarzenegger is an inspirational figure who has creatively contributed to society in a positive way. I'm going to explain why I think this in a minute, but before that, some background information. Who is Arnold Schwarzenegger? Some of his accomplishments are 7 times Mr. Olympia, which is the biggest bodybuilding show. Very competitive, so that's quite the accomplishment. He was a governor of California at one point, and he was also quite a renowned actor. His most famous movie, I believe, is The Terminator, so he's a man of many hats. His background: he was born in Austria in 1947, and he moved to the U.S. in 1968. Arnold said that the U.S. was the greatest country with the best opportunity when he was asked why he moved to the U.S. So his inspiration, escaping poverty was a big one. Arnold, he was raised in a very poor household, and making it out of poverty was one of the main drivers for his career. And also, his abusive father was another reason. Part of the reason he moved to the U.S. is because his father used to beat him, and he wanted to escape that, so he moved to a new country with more opportunity. Now, what makes Arnold Schwarzenegger creative? Before I answer that question, I think it'd be important to explain a little bit about what bodybuilding is. So, from the outside perspective, I would say, I can speak for everyone. I think most people would say bodybuilding is just a hobby, lifting weights and trying to look better. But for some people, it's not just a hobby, it's a lifestyle. So there's a few components of bodybuilding. The first, and this is what most people think of when they hear bodybuilding, is the training. Lots and lots of training goes into it. People spend their entire lives training for bodybuilding, so it's not just a hobby. Some people, it's more than that. And then what they're training for is how they actually make their money in this, and that's the competitions. So they train for years and years to look their best, and then eventually they go on stage and compete, and judges, they choose, based on certain criteria, who they think looks the best, and they award them with money. So yeah, that's pretty much what bodybuilding is. And I think that bodybuilding itself is creative, so I'm explaining why I believe that. First of all, bodybuilding is a long and slow process. So it's very similar to Dr. Pitt's creative process. When she came into class and we had our conversation, she shared some very interesting art pieces, and she explained that instead of just sitting down and creating a picture and finishing it in one session, she would sort of put down some ideas and let it sit for a while, and she wouldn't touch it until she had new ideas. She didn't force it. It was a slow process over time until she finally had what she liked, and she was content with it. So similarly, bodybuilding, you can't rush it. It takes years to get to the point where you're gonna make a living. So slowly chipping away, getting better every day, 1% every day, so to say. So yeah, I think it's creative in that way, where just a slow and steady improvement. And I also think bodybuilding is very artistic. There's a few reasons for this. First one is it's a lot like sculpting. For a long time, humans have been obsessed with the idea of the ideal human form. And they would express what they believed was the ideal human form through meticulous sculptures and carvings of marble that would create this incredible looking body. But then after some time passed, some people said, instead of carving marble, why not carve myself? So in essence, that's what bodybuilding is sculpting your own body to what you believe is the ideal form. So one quote that I really like that relates to that is from Alexis Carrel, and he said, "Man cannot remake himself without suffering, for he is both the marble and the sculptor." So I think that's a beautiful thing, and I think sculpting is very creative in itself. It's art. So that's one reason I think bodybuilding is creative. Another reason is the posing. A lot of people probably don't even know about bodybuilding posing. We'll go into it, but it's not just these static poses on the stage. It's like a dance. It's like there's this motion to it, this flow. And what I thought was interesting about that is both a display of art and a medium of art itself. So not only is it like a dance, art, but the dance is displaying the the body of the competitor, the art. So it's art in more ways than one. So for that reason, I think it's creative. And let's see here. How did Arnold Schwarzenegger use a creative process in his career? So not only was he a bodybuilder, which takes plenty of creativity, but in Twyla Tharp's The Creative Habit, one point she makes is examining what feeds your creativity. So choosing bodybuilding as a career for Arnold, that was him examining what feeds his creativity. He could have just went and said, I gotta get out of this poverty, I gotta go get a job, work a regular job, boring job, and his life would have amounted to not much, just a regular guy. But he looked at his life, he said, okay, what excites me? What am I, what feeds my creativity? What do I enjoy? And that thing was bodybuilding. He said, okay, how many turns into a career? So I think that decision was creative. And also along those lines, choosing how to train and what to eat, etc. is also you have to look inside and think, long term, what am I going to enjoy? What is going to feed this passion I have? And if he trained in a way that was not enjoyable to him, or if he ate foods that he didn't like, eventually the spark would have went out, and he wouldn't have made it. But yeah. So that was also a creative decision, or decisions that he had to make. And another example of this kind of thought process is training at the beach. Arnold loved to train at the beach. It motivated him. It made training easy. It made it a breeze. So he enjoyed that a lot, and I believe that was a creative decision as well. Another thing Twyla Tharp talks about in her book is developing a spine. So kind of having this backbone to your life and relating everything back to that, and that is a huge part of bodybuilding. Because bodybuilding is so competitive. If you want to be the best, everything in your life has to contribute to the goal. Because if you're slacking off and you're lacking here, you're skipping your meals, you're not training as hard as you could. The other guys that are training hard and eating their meals, they're gonna be looking better on stage. So, wasting time is not an option in bodybuilding. You have to be dialed. So, asking yourself, Arnold undoubtedly asked himself, about everything in his life, is this contributing to the goal? And if it wasn't, it had to go. So that was creative. And one more example of the creative process in Arnold's career is divergent thinking. We talked about divergent thinking a little bit in class, and there was a video on it. But in bodybuilding, you're constantly running into problems like training methods that don't work, maybe some injuries. I don't know if Arnold had any major injuries, but minor injuries are undoubtedly going to come up at some point. And standing out from other competitors, those are all problems that require solutions. So, you're not going to solve these problems with convergent thinking because the solutions don't exist, right? It's like convergent thinking, you have this solution in your mind and you work towards that solution, right? Divergent thinking is opposite. You don't know the solution yet, but you're brainstorming different ways that you could get there, right? So, some creative process in Arnold's career for sure. And why is Arnold Schwarzenegger significant to me? First of all, he's a huge inspiration to me. There's been a few times where I've lost some motivation to train. Not recently, but at the beginning, it was hard to get into it, and Arnold definitely made that easier. Looking at his physique and seeing what he did is definitely inspirational and gives me something to work toward. And bodybuilding has changed my life. I'm in the best shape I've ever been, and I have goals to work toward, and Arnold has contributed to that, so he's very significant to me. And last but not least, why should you care about Arnold? I think Arnold's a great example of how someone used creativity to change not only their life, but the world in a big way. He brought the sport of bodybuilding to light, which, that was a big thing. Bodybuilding was never popular until he made it popular. He got out of poverty and became rich and famous. Not that being rich and famous matters, but, that was his goal, get out of poverty. And using the creative process, he did that. And he inspires people all over the globe, which, I think that would be a satisfying thing for anybody if you could inspire people all over the globe. So, I also think Arnold reveals the possibility of using creativity in areas you might not have thought of before. I think a lot of people, their definitions of creativity are simple. It's not just creating a painting. It's everything in life. Looking at things from multiple different angles. Problem solving. Thinking outside the box. So, I would leave it at this. I would look at Arnold's life and think about how you can do the same thing he did in your life. So maybe you get these problems, right? Maybe you're not happy with your life, or maybe you're in poverty like he is, and instead of trying to rush to a solution, I would say, think about it reasonably. Say, what excites me to get up in the morning? What really feeds my creativity? And once you have an answer to that, I think even if you don't know it right away, everybody has an answer to that. It might take some time, but eventually, you'll find it. I would say taking the answer to that question and somehow connecting it to the solutions, to the problems in your life, that's how you create a meaningful life. So that's about it. That is why I think Arnold Schwarzenegger was an inspirational figure who creatively contributed to society. Thank you.